So let's hit record. Live. Set this up. We are here on Facebook, streaming now. Well, you got your coffee this morning. It's coffee and conversation. What coffee you drinking?
Folgers.
Oh.
Taking you back.
That's a grandma coffee, ain't it?
I don't do Keurigs. I don't do all that stuff, man. Just simple and basic. Folgers. In your cup.
It's a grandma coffee, boy. You was raised on that. So. Yes, sir. Let's see, there we go. A little better lighting. It's lighting on the outside. You see me?
Yeah, you kind of dark though. There you go.
Got it. All right, man. Well, listen, man. I'm excited to have Mr. Desgraves Pierre Don Jot. King the fourth. On with me this morning, man. Good morning, man. How you doing?
Doing well. Coming live and direct.
Yes, sir, man. Well, we give people a chance to get on, man, while we sipping on a little coffee. Where you at right now?
I'm in my home office. Become a comfort zone for me, particularly when the kids are gone.
Okay. Kids at school. How everybody doing?
Everybody doing well, man. We ready for the summer. Got a busy summer, and just thinking about life today. Had to pull out a calendar the other day just to put it all down on paper, man, so we don't miss anything. So it's fixing to be a fun summer, and we're excited, man.
Good stuff. I'm trying to still technology, man. Technology is something else today. You can do anything now. Technology.
Yeah, the sad thing is, I was just thinking the other day that I need to buy me another computer, and the life expectancy now seems like 2 to 3 years on anything technology. And just imagine, 20 years from now when we are nearing retirement, how much more advancement is going to happen in that 20 years. It's scary.
Yeah, man. It's interesting, man. And now they put these things on your computer, these upgrades, where if you don't upgrade it, your computer go run slow. It ain't gonna work. They know how to get us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think my phone manufacturer is probably pretty guilty of that. And they'll remain nameless at this point.
Hello, man. Miss Shantae Hawkins, she just said good morning to you. She trying to tell me that it's too dark.
Yeah, it is a little dark.
So I'm gonna switch over. There we go. Miss Hawkins.
Miss Hawkins, you need to stay in line now.
Is that better for you, Miss Hawkins? I know you want to see my face. See my face. All right, well, Mark, man, let's jump in, man. Let's get into this conversation, man. Again, thank you for joining me this morning, man, for a conversation. Just kind of want to have, as you know, my new book is getting ready to come out. It Takes Two: Who is Helping You Lead. And so as I'm preparing for this release next month, man, I just thought it would be a good idea. And actually, let me give a shout out to one of my PR coaches, Nikki Woods, man, from Dallas, Texas. Man, she got me working. She really got me working, doing some stuff. So shout out to her, which was a referral to me through Miss Shantae Hawkins, who is the CEO of Profit is the New Black. And so wanted to just kind of have conversations, man. I'm not only launching a book, I'm trying to create an awareness and an appreciation for people to understand, man, you can't do this by yourself. In this age of social media and comparison and unbridled ambition, and I'm looking at somebody else's page and they writing a book, so I got to write a book. Or they starting a business, I got to start a business. Or whatever it is, I just felt like, man, this is a message that needs to get out, that it does take two. No one is an island to themselves. Whether you are the CEO of a company, you can't run that company by yourself. You need quality help. You need executive leaders on your team, whether that's on your staff, whether that's on your board of directors, or just supporters, period. You can't do it by yourself. So I'm talking to the head of companies, but then I'm also talking to those who serve in roles such as yourself that has been a vice president for years, chief operating officers, chief financial officers, chief marketing officers, supervisors, managers. So kind of talking to them to, number one, say, man, just because you're not the head of the company, that don't make you less than. And number two, here are some qualities, here are some principles that you can apply that can make you better in that role. So that's pretty much the basis of the book. And I start off by talking about how Michael Jordan, as great as he was, great, he is the GOAT. Let me clarify that for all these comparison people today. They forgot how great Michael Jordan was. They want to say everybody the next Jordan. But Jordan, as great as he was, it was not until Scottie Pippen matured and became a great player himself that Jordan was able to win 6 championships. And that's pretty much the premise of the book. So thank you for being on with me today, man. I know you got a lot to say, a lot to offer to this conversation. So let's start with this, man. Tell me, who is Marc Desgraves IV? Tell me a little bit about you and your background. And let's go.
Yeah. So first of all, appreciate you having me, man. Thank you for allowing me to join in this journey. I'm super proud of you. We've known each other over 25 years, and seeing you mature in your role and change who you are, and I think that's part of the message that'll come out today is remaining relevant, and thinking ahead. And so, I've looked at you from afar, and we've all kept each other accountable in our organization, which we'll get into here in a minute. But, one of the things that I love to talk about when I talk about myself is, at the end of the day, this is a journey that takes a lot of commitment, time, and adjustment. And so my career, actually starting out at Alabama State in the early 90s, started out as a marketing major. And one of the things that I realized real quick that I wanted to do was make some money when I came out of college. So one of my first pivots and adjustments, and we'll talk about that as we continue in our conversation, was changing to accounting as a degree. Now, it was financially motivated, but it was one of the best things that I could do, and it has allowed me to have a foundation in my career to make moves, but also have a baseline of understanding financially how those moves impact me both personally and in my career. So finished with a degree in accounting from Alabama State, obtained my CPA license in 2002 and began practicing immediately. And one of the things that I value in my career, my experiences, is diversity in my background, the careers I've served, the industries I've served in, and how I've applied my schooling to over 15 different industries, which is something that I feel like gives me perspective when I meet with my clients and consult with new clients and emerge into new industries. Started out my career in oil and gas, and was one of the things that's interesting is I've seen some of the darkest tragedies in this country's history, and I've been experienced in those. Enron, for example, as a young lad, 2 years out of college, seeing the Enron debacle firsthand and having a counterpart at Enron that was incentivized to float money in the company's favor was just one of many examples I picked up of lessons learned of things not to do, and so not having a good two-man or two men, if you will, could result in some of these behaviors and actions that these companies have experienced. Left oil and gas, went to public accounting, worked at Ernst & Young for a while. I knew I needed that experience.
Hold on a second, Mark.
Yep.
Slow down a little bit. When you were how you were out of school and then the Enron thing happened, like how long had you been out of school? Like because you had just kind of got into that, right?
Exactly. So working at TXU, a local utility here in Dallas-Fort Worth, I was 3 years out of college.
Wow.
When the Enron debacle first started unraveling. And I didn't put the pieces together until after everything happened. But my counterpart at Enron was incentivized to basically position the company's cash position on settling out contracts in the company's favor, which could mean millions of dollars of interest earned over 2 months while things settled out between contracts that Enron had with other gas suppliers and providers and producers. So it was one of those things where when I sat back and I looked and I learned from that experience, you say to yourself, what happened? Well, clearly the breakdown in leadership and oversight and monitoring of proper checks and balances and systems failed to the lowest levels. I mean, I was essentially a recent graduate, and she was too. So we're in our early 20s. We're at the lowest levels in our respective accounting departments, and you can clearly see the damage and the depth and breadth of the lack of oversight went down to the lowest levels. And this is clearly one of the reasons why you need top leadership, even at the highest level, mid-levels, and certainly at the lower levels, which, you know, was amazing to see, you know. And even at Ernst & Young, going into public accounting, you know, the remnants of what happened at Enron and the shakeup and the tension on Wall Street really permeated into this area of panic amongst companies of, you know, how much spend do we have to have on changing leadership, tone at the top? How do we consult our leaders and make them aware of the importance of their tone at the top? And how do we take that and make sure culture is right? How do we make sure that training is right? How do we make sure that HR practices are right? You know, what are our screening efforts? I mean, there's so many things that came out of that. And that obviously wasn't the first or the last, you know, scandal, if you will, that created all this distrust amongst investors. And it's happened several times since then, you know, and it's interesting that, you know, my career has kind of followed that path. You know, I had a client that was part of the Bernie Madoff scandal. You know, I've seen fraud in multiple levels. And so when I left Ernst & Young, I decided that I would ride this wave of market consciousness and regulation. And so the Sarbanes-Oxley Act is something that I latched on to. Again, a pivot. It was a pivotal time in my career where I could have went two different ways. I could have said, look, you know, I want to stay in public accounting because there'll be a lot more experience, a lot more relationships to gain. But at the same time, I can leverage this new regulation to go and take my career on another path. And that's what I decided to do. And so I went into publishing at that time. But all the while, I've been, you know, handling clients from a tax preparation and tax consulting perspective. And that grew from family and friends to small businesses, and then ultimately a handful of C Corps as well.
So you were in public accounting, you were in oil and gas, you transitioned into the publishing companies, doing accounting there. Now you just talked about you were doing tax and consulting. So when did you get your CPA?
Yeah, so I obtained my CPA license in 2002. Okay. And finished up grad school around the same time. And ultimately, my decision there was I wanted to get it done early because I knew I needed the ability to have credentials to parlay that into other opportunities. And since then, I've gained a few certifications in certain areas. But ultimately, my CPA license and my financial background has allowed me to have, like I talked about, have a great foundation for being able to serve in so many capacities as a two-man. And, you know, we'll get into that as well, too. And so when I think about my career, you know, having seen retail, oil and gas, publishing, technology, software, I mean, you name it, healthcare, small business, service industry, professional services. I mean, there's so many areas that when I look and try to decide, okay, what's my next move, right? You always want to be looking at market conditions and those types of things and where are the trends. We talked about technology when we first got on today, you know, so I'm always looking to figure out, okay, what's my next move? So when I think about a two-man and the concept, right, I think that's one of the traits and qualities of a great two-man, right, is to, you know, be thinking ahead and figuring out, you know, this is a game of chess. So how do I take my organization's objectives, goals, and initiatives and the desires and dreams and vision of a leader and figure out how do we navigate this thing and think about the future in two chunks, immediate future and long term, right? And so, but my career, man, just to wrap that up, I mean, I've served, I gained my vice presidency at that same publishing company, which was transforming itself from a a print-based company to a technology-enabled solution-only company, and helped that company through that transformation. And in that role, I served as vice president with a straight line. I reported directly to the audit committee chair of the board of directors, and then I had a dotted line to the CFO. So my two-man was really split, and I'd love to get into that here when we talk about your book.
Okay, well, man, fantastic. Now this is interesting, and I want to do this because you and I, we partner on another venture where we're committed to kind of giving back to this next generation and helping them be successful. Now, as you talked about your story, kind of your career path, help people understand, like, you didn't come from a line of college graduates, executives. I'm not sure if you had CEOs or vice presidents or business people in your family background. Tell us a little bit about your upbringing, just childhood, and kind of where you come from, and how you got to this point to where I'm going to college, I'm getting my CPA, I'm gonna run corporations. Like, where did that come from?
You know, it's interesting. I come from a very humble background, very small family. Grew up primarily in the Dallas area of Texas, Oak Cliff area, South Dallas. Not a lot of great things going on around me. You know, it's interesting when college really became clear on that's what my desire was. Probably, to be honest with you, my senior year in high school. My parents were both educated, but bounced around to different jobs. On my father's side, ex-military. On my father's side, nobody really there from a corporate perspective. Huge military experience and government experience on my father's side, but wasn't really close to that side of my family. Closer to my mother's side of the family, which was a lot of laborers, you know, a lot of lower end jobs, and not a lot of insight from a mentor perspective or from a parent perspective. So a lot of my growing up, I always call myself a late bloomer. A lot of my growing up happened, I would call my senior year in high school and in college. In college, being involved in the Inroads program was one of the best decisions I made to apply and join that program.
Tell people what that is. Tell people.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Inroads program is put in place to serve minority students, not just African Americans, but minority students, and help them find internships during the summer. And very long-standing, reputable organization that has sponsoring companies. And so my sponsoring company was TXU, which is why I entered the oil and gas industry. Gotcha. And I did 2 summers with TXU and was part of the Inroads program, which had a lot of professional development. The Inroads program had a lot of networking opportunities to interact with executives from companies, from the sponsoring companies, which was some of the Fortune 100, some of the Fortune 500. And so interacting with executives on a regular basis, at least once a month, as well as being involved with my company from an intern perspective and rubbing elbows with executives at my company, which was a regulated industry at the time, but was going through deregulation. Everybody knows in Texas, electricity deregulation was one of the biggest transformation in the company history, state's history for a long time, because it opened up competition to something that is very lucrative, but it's very complex. And so my experience in Inroads, my experience in college, being involved with you guys at TDI in our earlier years, and then ultimately finding myself in a position when I started my job right out of college that I wanted to do more than just sit at a desk. I found myself always in front of somebody of influence that could give me insight as to what's the best, you know, what route did they take to get to where they're at, you know, and that's where I started developing a lot of my relationship skills, you know, being able to listen, you know, being able to gather information quickly, process it quickly. learning how to take things that I've learned and think clearly about how what I'm doing translates to the company's objectives, and how that could help me think strategically. And I always felt like I can do my job, but it was more than just doing my job, because I got bored if I just did my job, you know.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Man, that's good. And so I want to take a pause right here, man. People are watching, and I want people to, how do people follow you? Because you have your own accounting firm and consultant. So let's talk a little bit about that. Let's take a little commercial break and talk about what you do. Where can people find you at? What services do you offer that they can take advantage of?
Absolutely. So currently, I am the sole principal owner of Desgraves CPA practice. I assist in tax preparation, tax consulting, tax planning, business startup, and I delve into the areas of small business and not-for-profits. I've been practicing now almost 20 years and have seen a lot. And so when I think about the value adds and propositions I bring as a service provider, certainly being able to think strategically about a business owner or startup's vision for where they want to go, the basic blocking and tackling of how you get legal and start a business legally, accounting services, you know, setting up QuickBooks and things of that nature. One of my tax strategies on how to save and deductions that people may be missing is where I can add value. But, you know, when it comes to a startup opportunities, which is where I'm laying my hat now, and have a number of startups that I serve as fractional CFO for, as well as tax provider. I take a step back and ask my business owners, you know, ultimately, how do you want to change the world? That's my number one question. How do you want to change the world?
Okay.
And a lot of times, you know, it baffles them because it's like, man, I'm trying to change me. You know, and I said, that's true. If you feel like you're lacking somewhere, you obviously need to address that. But you're going into business to make money, but you're also going into business to help others. It could be others that you employ. It could be your family members. It could be some of those other goals and objectives that you have personally or professionally outside of the business, because you're using the business as a conduit to ultimately reach another level.
Good, Mark.
And that's one of the things that when I sit down with my clients, that's the first question I ask, you know. And so it opens up a lot of doors of conversation to where I can begin to add more value, which is where I feel like, you know, when you think about, you know, how do you get the basics down of your accounting system, and what do we need to think about from a tax perspective? How do we get legal? That's all great. But now we need to think about, okay, you know, what type of spending habits do we need to have, you know, as a small business owner? What type of pricing do we need to think about in terms of competition? How are you going to differentiate yourself? You know, all those types of things. How are you going to market? What is social media? You know, and helping them dissect in so many different areas to where they lose sight of the fact that I'm a finance guy. I become more of just an overall advisor, and that's my ultimate goal.
That's good. Marcus Vanderbilt is online. He say, good stuff, Mark. Excellent question of people who want to provide a service. Vanderbilt, Alabama State. What's up, man?
What's up, Vandy?
Tim Fields. Oh, well, hold on. We didn't. So we know what you do. CPA, kind of how you help with small businesses. How do people find you? Tell us where you at on social media. Is there a website? Like, how do people get in contact with you?
You know what's funny, man? Y'all joke with me all the time about my lack of social media presence. You know, I am certainly
my practice. Folgers coffee, so I can't.
Folgers in your cup.
It was in your cup, man.
Folgers, you know, I had to put a pot on. Y'all no Keurigs. I'm from my own cloth, man. I'm from my own cloth. So people can find me by just calling my number. My number hasn't changed in 25 years. That's 972-743-3935. You can certainly reach me at my.
Tim Fields, will you please type that in the comment section? This dinosaur I'm talking to right now.
You can find me on Twitter at Desgraves CPA, DESGRAVES CPA. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
LinkedIn.
I have an email address, but that. Hey, listen, man. Word of mouth and doing people right is served me well. Now, I will get on social media at one point. I'm just not sure when.
So you're on Twitter.
Yep.
Desgraves CPA.
On LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn.
LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Tim Fields, will you please type that in the comment section so people can see how to
you can find me on
Papa Desgraves. All right, man. So other people that get on again, man, thank y'all for joining us. Listen, we just having a conversation. We just letting y'all in our room. So as y'all jump in and jump out and y'all want to watch some of this later, listen, you don't want to miss it. I'm talking about my book that's coming out in June. It Takes Two, Who is Helping You Lead. Man, a book I feel like is an important book right now in our culture, in our society. I don't care what sphere of influence that you're in. You cannot lead a company. You cannot lead anything by yourself. I don't care if you're in sports. I don't care if you're in media. I don't care if you own a record company. I don't care if you lead a nonprofit, a church, a business, small business, whatever. Stop trying to do it by yourself. Get this book so I can tell you the type of people that you need to look for. And when you get them, you got to appreciate them. So I'm on here with Marc Desgraves CPA. Incredible guy, man. I've been knowing this guy, man. It's longer than 25. We're celebrating 25 years of TDI.
Yeah.
We go back way before.
Another 10, about 35 years.
Almost 35, man, from middle school, basketball rivals. He went to Sam Houston in Arlington. I went to Bowie in Arlington. He went to Hutch in Arlington. I went to Workman, and we've been playing against each other for years. And then we just, man, end up going to college together, Alabama State. We started a nonprofit organization together, man. Well, we've invested, man, almost more than $50,000 in giving away scholarships and helping young men who pursuing higher education. Let's talk a little bit about that. Tell people about TDI. You serve as the two-man in that organization. So talk a little bit about that. Absolutely.
So TDI is yet another call.
Thank you for Quita Desgraves. She said she going to work on your online presence. Light, sir.
I'm old school, baby. I used to drive a Cutlass.
South Dallas, Oak Cliff. I think I used to see it on Glendale.
But TDI, man, Turning Dreams into Realities, scholarship mentorship program, been around for 10 years. Yet another cog in my fabric when I look at why I'm here on this earth, which is to serve youth. You know, I serve on the board for a group of charter schools. We just were approved and were funded for a $40 million bond. This charter school that I'm involved with and serve on the board as treasurer for is going to take it to another level. I'm a big in Big Brothers Big Sisters. I serve on the board there in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. We now have a strategic partnership with Big Brothers Big Sisters. And so, you know, TDI fits well with what I want to do in my lifetime, which is give back to youth, empower youth, and prepare them for life. And so Turning Dreams to Realities is a thought that you had, Ramone, years ago at a meeting we had, I believe it was in Chicago. And it's a vision that has materialized into something that none of us thought would even get to this point. And we have so much more to do and so many tentacles now that we can take this thing. But we scholarship our kids. We directly mentor them. We have now two parts of our program. We started out mentoring and still do mentor college age or college bound and college age kids, males. And we have monthly calls with them. We have in-person sessions with them, and our door is open to them for life. And so we coach them, we guide them, we consult them, we help them find internships, and then we ultimately love on them, right? And we get them to a point where they are prepared for career, entrepreneurship, and life. We recently launched a new part of our program that delves back even further and helps middle school and high school kids. It's a part of our program that's designed to be delivered over a year's time. It has a workbook that complements the book that we wrote. And that program, I can't begin to tell you how excited I am about where that can go, because now we have an opportunity to take a young man who is at that age of insecurity, confusion, huge negative influences, and take them from that age, middle school, all the way through college and into their career through our program. And I can't begin to tell you how that supply chain, if you will have so many parts to it that we can begin to mold these young men and help them along the way. We have dream seminars that we deliver that are designed for any organization that wants to uplift and motivate youth. We can deliver that in any context. It's certainly customizable to the audience. And the book we wrote, It Was All a Dream, was the first publication of many that's designed to take 6 principles that we deliver in our organization that we use the acronym DREAMS: discipline, relationships, execution, attitude, motivation, and sacrifice. We take those principles and we weave them in and out of our personal stories, both in person, in the publication, in the Dream Seminar, in our motivation and mentoring of our kids. And it's simple concept, but it's based on something that is so unique that it's hard to describe how 12 young men met over 25 years ago and have formed this bond, and this story itself is what drives us and creates this unique bond that allows us to take what we do and share it with others and share it with you to impact them. And so I can't begin to tell you, this thing is on its infancy stages, you guys, and look out for what we're going to do with this, because we have dreams of taking this organization to the next level at some point in the future, where we become seeds for these same young men if they want to start a business.
Right.
We have dreams of taking all the concepts we have and creating a center, a place, one place that youth can come to begin to hone in on what craft or what discipline, what apprenticeship they want to have, such that they are prepared to enter the workforce either as an entrepreneur or provider, or kids fall through the cracks, because everybody's not built for college. But there are a lot of great minds out here, and we want to take these great minds and not let them fall through the cracks. And so TDI is on the verge of changing the world, and that's ultimately what we're about. So I'm excited about it, man.
You got a copy of the book you can show the people, man? And tell
yes, I do.
Where they can get the book. Listen, y'all are in the middle of a conversation with two friends, with two business partners. And so this is the book right here. Marc is showing It Was All a Dream. We put this book out 2 years now.
Yeah.
Been out 2 years. If you purchase this book, man, purchase a couple of copies of this book. You can go to our website. I just put it in, www.tdi2r.org. 100% of the proceeds of this book, 100, go to providing scholarship and helping us run this mentor program. So, man, listen, Marc, you're doing a fantastic job as the vice president, the two-man of that organization. So I want to spin now. I want to jump into this two-man topic. So again, if y'all are watching, if y'all watching this later, Man, my new book is coming out in June. It's called It Takes Two, Who is Helping You Lead. I reference, you tell me Michael Jordan, I can tell you Scottie Pippen. You tell me Steve Jobs, I can tell you Steve Wozniak. You tell me Bill Gates, I can tell you Paul Allen. You tell wherever you want to go, I can tell you every great leader had a great two-man or team behind them. So Mark, you have served as a two-man in corporate America. You basically, as a CPA, serve as an ad hoc two-man for your clients. You serve as two-man in our organization, in our nonprofit organization. So one of the things I talk about in the book is the qualities of a two-man. And I make this comparison, an animal comparison. I talk about if the lion is the king of the jungle, then I would say the lion is the leader of the organization. But I say a two-man needs to be a horse. So I use this illustration of a lion and a horse. And I use horse because it has acronyms. And I talk about qualities, and I take each letter of horse and explain some of the qualities. One of the things I talk about is humility. The O, I talk about being organized. The R, resourceful. S, strategic. E, being an example for the rest of the employees in your organization. So these are just some of the qualities that I list in my book. Tell me, what are some of the qualities? And you kind of started listing a few earlier, and I want to save it for this moment. But what are some qualities that you think exist that maybe you have committed to when you're working in different organizations, or what you think qualities to be a good two-man?
Great question. Great question. When I think about qualities of a two-man, one of the things that comes to the forefront is, being creative. Creativity in your thought leadership, first of all, initiates discussion, drives discussion, and ultimately creates this expectation that you're going to always consider, but think outside the box, right? And one of the things that every great two-man is poised with and challenged with is, what do you think about this? How many times have you gotten that question? Tell me what you think about this. And that's where I think being creative is something that a great two-man has, because a lot of times it initiates a thought in the leader's head, and the leader, whether they take credit for it or not, it doesn't really matter. If it's a great thought that the two-man provide by having a conscious mindset of trying to think outside the box and be creative, be crafty and nimble of there's more than one way to skin a cat, type of concept. I think that's a great quality of a two-man. Also think about, certainly having, going along with the tone, setting the tone for the organization, because a lot of times the culture and the message, if you will, that goes down to the lower levels in any organization usually starts with the leader, but the two-man has to be able to understand that and deliver that messaging, deliver that tone, set the example, if you will. And so tone at the top, I think, is a great quality of understanding what that means and how it drives culture, which drives productivity, which drives behavior, which drives, cohesiveness and collaboration, all those things you look for in an organization. And sometimes being able to manage a manager, that's one of the things that, and you may ask, what does that mean? What it means to me is, having the ability to work with someone and building up your knowledge and experience with them, where you begin to think like them, right? And you ask yourself, what would my leader do in this situation, in those private moments, points of reflection. And so manager is thinking like them, but when it comes to an actionable item or some sort of strategic move, you certainly want to be able to help that leader understand the ramifications of a decision, understand the risks that may be involved with an initiative or a goal, and being able to come to the table with cautiousness, but with recommendations. You can't really, you can't come to the table and complain if you don't have a solution, right?
And I hate that. I hate that. No, listen, you go bring me a problem, bring me a solution with it. You the problem.
No, that's true, man. And then ultimately there's some, I think you got to have some basis of financial acumen behind you. A great two-man always understands the financial impact of certain moves, certain decisions, certain growth opportunities. And then finally, I would say probably being a giver, being a great listener and being a giver. We talk about in our dream seminars, when we talk about the topic of sacrifice, being a king maker, you have to give upstream and downstream, right? You have to give to your leader, but you also have to give to those that follow you, and making sure that people understand that it's not all about me. It's about the organization. It's about the people that invested in this, the stakeholders that have the greatest interest, and not being afraid to sacrifice and give up something that you may want to obtain, because ultimately, if you do the right thing, it's going to come back to you. And so that's ultimately when I think about, qualities of a two-man.
That's good. Marcus Vanderver says, think like them, but analyze outside the thought. He's quoting what you said. Marcus, what do you do? What's your role? I know you are doing some great things down in the South. Marcus Vanderver is online. Talk to me, man. What do you do in your field? Todrick Johnson, publisher of Epitome Magazine, say he just bought 2 copies of my book. Man, bless you. Bless you, Doc. Todrick out of the Dallas-Fort Worth area, man. Appreciate that. So y'all are in the middle of a conversation with Marc Desgraves CPA, has his own CPA service based out of Dallas-Fort Worth. Phenomenal guy, sits on the board of directors for Big Brothers and Big Sisters. He helped leads our nonprofit organization, Turning Dreams into Reality. So man, I'm blessed to have you on in this conversation. I'm saying this is a conversation because me and you, we could talk like this for days. So we can give people insight to what we talk about all the time anyway. You know what I'm saying? We can have these conversations and just kind of go on, man. But I'm so blessed, man. Number one, to call you one of my best friends, man. And, I really admire what you do, your work ethic, just your grind to be the best at what you do. Very strategic in how you've helped us orchestrate some things through TDI. And man, we're proud of you. I think we got a lot of Alabama State people that's on board and they're watching. They've seen your growth. They've seen, your tenacity going back to Alabama State University. Very versatile. I'm sure Marcus Vanderver could agree.
That's funny you say that, man, because oftentimes, when you think back to those early 90s, man, mid 90s at Alabama State, people from all walks of life, like any college experience, but I think ours was a little different because we were able to take
State Department of Education. There we go, Mark.
Yeah.
Department of Education. All right.
We were able to take our experiences, our values, what we believed in. We had a great time, but we took care of business, and I think that has translated into everything we're doing now over 25 years later, So we had some great times, man. Vanderver, I remember barbecuing one time on his balcony. It almost burned the place down.
Dear Marcus, who who did we get that long barbecue pit from? That we never returned. I don't think we had somebody barbecue pit for about 2 years.
Yeah, that I think that was stolen from Petway.
Anyway. And listen, y'all, we would have barbecues, and we had a good time. We threw little sets, man. But it's funny how, man, I think one of the things I appreciate most about us, TDI, back in college, we was known as Tyler Dallas. Man, we could take anything and flip it, and it became business. Like, we would have fun just doing regular stuff, and then it's like, hold on, let's flip this. It went from having barbecues and people just coming to hang out. Then it went to parties and promotions and renting out hotels, and man, and that has always been something I think that we've had, which made us unique. Talk about that. Just give me a little bit about, man, your college experience and how some of the lessons you learned from there you kind of brought over into your professional world.
Absolutely. When I think about my time at Alabama State, certainly challenged from my professors, being small class size, you get into real world experiences and you get into certain topics that apply the principles you're learning, but give you a different perspective because you're in a small class size. You can get into more engagement, more topic around things. And sometimes it was just life, Dr. Crawford, who was the chair of the accounting department, she made a point to certainly take the young men aside and talk to them one-on-one. And so that type of environment you may not get at a large college. And so when I think about my time in the College of Business, which was an emerging department at the time, recent national accreditation, a great leader in Dr. Vaughn, who, even though he was tough, he was a great leader. He made sure that we dressed properly. He made sure that we spoke. Oh, man. Percy Vaughn. He made sure.
Right name now, don't.
Dr. Vaughn. Dr. Percy Vaughn, J. Vaughn. But Dr. Vaughn, man, Dean of the College of Business, he made sure that we had a project and a speaking engagement as part of our curriculum in every class. So you had to get up and talk in a project in every class. And it was the lowest level business classes all the way up to business policies upon exiting the college. So, that right there alone, that experience, small class size, being challenged to speak in front of others, that was the College of Business. Now, outside the College of Business, I had a great group of young men who we all met early on, and we supported each other, we embraced each other, and we ultimately kept each other accountable. We had fun, we kicked it, we barbecued, we road tripped, all those things, but at the same time, we took care of business. And so those experiences, along with coming home and sharing my experience, it allowed me to sorry, I had an internet connection there. It allowed me to take those experiences and, number one, help others like we talked about through TDI, but it also helped me to navigate the politics and the relationships around business. When you think about knowing when to be forceful, knowing when to step back, knowing when to listen, knowing when to take action, you get a lot of those experiences in college through group projects like we talked about, but you also get it through just growing up in a company, right? And so having the wherewithal, having a thick skin, being able to take criticism, all those things helped in my career, and even till today, right? Because ultimately we're not perfect, right? And so ultimately you have to take what you've learned and build on it, and Alabama State was a great foundation to get me kickstarted, you know. And so I'm excited about where we're going now because I think now we have an opportunity with TDI to do so much more in the community and in business, right? And it's going to be impactful, and we're all going to be kind of two men, you know, in our respective roles, right?
I'm excited about that too. What you just said in terms of opportunity we have through TDI, man. I feel good about, and we've been. One of the things I like about us, and one of the reasons when we're in our board meetings, I share, like, we didn't really want to go public. We really didn't want to ask a lot of people to sow into what we were doing. Let's do this on our own. Let's take our own money. Let's take our own dollars, our own experiences, and pour back into these young men. And we've been doing that for 10 years. And so now there's fruit to what we've done. We've graduated young men. We've helped young men. Some of these young men work for our companies now. We've helped people get internships. We've sent people to China on trips, man. We purchased suits for people. We've taken them on exposure field trips. We've done all this type of stuff without the world basically saying, we're going to give y'all money. And so now I'm very confident about our program. I'm confident about the success rate because everyone who's come through our program has graduated, got their degree, they're working, and that's because of what we've done. And so I feel like in the next few years, there's a point where we can say, if you're looking for some of the best and brightest young leaders, they coming through TDI because you can trust what we're pouring into these young people, the type of professional development experience that they're getting, the life experience that they're getting. Man, you know, you can talk about this, but just some of the trips and some of the exposure that we have brought to these young men. Talk about it, whether it's Atlanta, whether it was Philadelphia, whether it was New York, whatever. Talk just a little bit about that, because for me, I feel like, man, children can only be what they see. And when they get exposed to something, some of these guys coming out of the poorest places of the country, out of the South, and some of these things that we've exposed them to, you can't unexpose them now. They want more. They want better. And I attribute that to what you guys have done through TDI. So talk a little bit about why we've invested so much, because they're not going, like, they don't come with us on trips and go to Popeyes. They don't come with us and go to stay at the Motel 6. I mean, it's something that we're giving too. So talk a little bit about that.
Absolutely. It changes mindset, what we're doing, because, you know, when we take kids to JetLinks or we take them to the CNN Center, we take them, you know, on road trips. We take them to some of our dream seminars that we do. And seeing us speak, seeing us interact with the leaders of these organizations that we're helping to deliver these dream seminars. And actually a couple of them flew here to Dallas when we made our initial partnership with Big Brothers Big Sisters. That was huge, because Big Brothers Big Sisters says, look, we do a great job of mentoring while they're in school, but we lose sight of them when they leave high school. And he says, one thing about you guys is you guys pick up from there when they leave high school, but you now come back and we now have a common time with these kids in the new part of our program. So seeing, you know, having the kids seeing us interact with executives and leaders and community leaders. And then ultimately, one of the things I love is not only do they get experience, they gain confidence, but I really enjoy the one-on-one time, if you will. We're in groups where when we invite these young men to be around us, there have been many a times where I see light bulb moments.
Yeah.
And we're just sitting around in a living room in a place we've rented, Airbnb, and we have the young men come and we talk to them about business, about life, about credit, about relationships, about women. I mean, you can't imagine the times we've sat around, and I just look into their eyes, right? And I can see understanding, I can see and grasping something. I think it's changing how they interact when they go back home, when they interact with their coworkers, and when they interact with their family members. I believe that they're changed such that they now have a broader perspective on ultimately driving them to help them figure out what they want to do in their life. You know, why am I here? And it's those living room moments, man, that when you talk about exposure, you know, it's great to go to interact and rub elbows with executives at a corporate jet company like JetLink. And that's great. And we'll continue to do those things. But it's that coupled with the living room experiences that I think are changing mindsets and changing behavior.
Yeah, man. So fantastic job. Big Text Marketing said, "What's up, my dudes?" Vandiver, yes, sir. I see you. Tamika Osborne, she said, Dean Vaughn, Dr. Crawford, Dr. Self, Mr. Montgomery were invaluable to her experience at ASU. Our conversation will keep going, but I'm coming off of Instagram Live, but we're going to stay on Facebook Live. But y'all, to everybody, man, my book is coming out June. It Takes Two, Who Is Helping You Lead. You can go pre-order it right now at www.ittakes2lead.com. I got a free gift to give you if you want that. If you don't even want the book now, you just want that free gift, go to that site. Also, RamoneHarper.com. So to my Instagram family, appreciate y'all for tuning in. Facebook, we're getting ready to keep this conversation going just for a little bit longer. IG, we'll holler at y'all. Yeah, man. So that TDI thing, man, is we moving, man. I actually just got an email from Dr. Hodge, and so she is trying to book us for Labor Day Classic weekend, bringing a dream seminar back for convocation, which is the Thursday before Labor Day Classic. I'm excited about that. I always love to go back to our alma mater and speak to the new incoming students and helping them hear our story and to dream big. Labor Day Classic, everybody, Alabama State, we got some brewing. Brewing. Listen to me. Alabama, your boys are coming home. We got some, and y'all got to get up early though. Listen, I'm telling you now, Marcus Vandiver, Tamika Osborne, Tim Fields, you need to come down. Everybody is listen. Listen,
Linda.
Listen, Linda. You ain't experienced what we getting ready to bring to y'all right now. I'll tell you, pay attention. Pay attention, please. Tim Fields, he said he had us on mute, but he watching. Man, take us off mute. Y'all ain't doing that at Emory University right now. It's winning. Middle of the week. You're not doing anything. So, talk a little bit, man. You also kind of serving as a two-man for one of our best friends, our brother. I know y'all got some big stuff coming on. He just released a book. Tell me a little bit about that, Mr. Tim Fields. We are saluting him this morning. Coffee and Conversations in tribute to Timothy Fields. Talk a little bit about that, because you two-manning right now for him.
Man, I tell you what, another brother I've known for 30 plus years, Tim Fields, I'm so proud of him. He just published and released a title called Lessons I Learned from Drinking, Life Principles Learned from Investing in Spirits. A lot of people hear the title and they may get thrown off, but this book is impactful, guys. You got to go pick it up. Lessons I Learned from Drinking by Timothy Fields. This book is about life principles. It's about things that he has learned in his journey, both working at his job and traveling the world, and family experiences and friend experiences, college experiences, and taking all those on that journey and saying, okay, what did I learn from homecoming? What did I learn from a friend of mine? We had a great conversation at a bar. What did I learn from my personal friends? And saying, okay, how do you take that and turn it into something that can change your behavior, knowing when to walk away, knowing when to take a break. And it's not just, and by the way, enjoying this with a beverage. It doesn't matter the beverage. It could be coffee, tea, it could be water, it could be Sprite, or it could be tequila, right? It doesn't matter, a cocktail. But you find yourself in some of those thoughtful moments, either with yourself, because it's one of the chapters in the book, sometimes just taking a break for yourself and being alone for a minute and having thoughts of reflection. And so a lot of it's regrouping yourself, refreshing yourself, and having different perspectives on life and enjoying it with friends, with family, with coworkers, with prospective clients. And usually you have some of those thoughts when you're enjoying a great beverage. And again, no matter what it is, some of the great, conversations you might have could be at Starbucks, just enjoying a coffee with someone. And so he's on tour now. I'm excited for him. I hope to join him on tour at various locations and support him, because it's a great concept that I think has, so many tentacles where it could go when you talk about principles that you might learn when you engage in conversation and dialogue with others. And again, usually you're doing that over a great meal or a great beverage. So super proud of him. And guys, go pick this book up, because I tell you, there's some stuff in there that'll make you laugh for sure. And there's some stuff in there that'll make you think. And so that's what that piece is about. And I love it.
Yeah, man. So proud of him, man. He's part of our publishing family, man. We decided to publish our first book. It was all a dream. Again, go to TDI2R.org. Pick up a copy of this book. My book is coming out. You can pre-order it now. RamoneHarper.com. ItTakesTwoLead.com. You can pick that up now. But Heritage Publishing, man, we published our book. Tim is now a part of Heritage Publishing. My book is coming out through Heritage Publishing, based out of Nashville, Tennessee. What's up? I know you got something coming. So as we kind of bring this to a close, man, I know you got some stuff brewing. So tell the people, what can we expect from Marc Desgraves, Pierre, Joan Jacques, Rojo King, in the next year or two, man? What's brewing? What can we expect? Why should we follow you? What can we expect coming out of your wheelbarrow soon?
Yeah, one of the things that, again, that they say, stay in your lane. You've heard that before. And I've been thinking long and hard about my next publication. And one of the things that I want to do is create a series of publications designed to help youth think about business, life, entrepreneurship, and catch them at an early age and tell it through story. And so I'm excited about this series, because I think it has the opportunity to change the mindset of a fourth grader through an eighth grader and get them exposed to thinking outside the box of, you can learn your 1, 2, 3s and ABCs, but you can also be exposed to business principles at the youngest age and get them thinking strategically about their life early on, and do it in a series that gradually takes them on a journey. And so I'm looking to do that. I just started some of the manuscript for it the other day, and that should be coming out soon, because again, it fits with what we're doing with TDI. And I thought to myself long and hard, I was going to do it from an adult perspective, but I had a thought the other day from up above, and he says, man, stay in your lane. Stay in your lane. Do what you do best and continue to serve the constituency that you have. I've challenged you with dedicating your life to. And so that's why I'm so excited about that. And, too, man, I mean, I'm excited about what you have, because now listen, this is something that I was talking to one of my prospective clients just the other day about this concept of helping a leader get to the next level, you know, and having them have sustained success, right? And how to handle success. You know, what does that mean? You know, how do you handle success? What are you going to do with that? And it all centers around having a great leadership team and having great two men. And so, you know, when I think about my experiences coming up in corporate America, my two men experiences in corporate America were dedicated to serving two men for the board of directors of a publicly traded company, as well as the CFO of that company. And so that experience alone helped me have a great dialogue with this prospective client, because we were able to delve into some of those areas that are common between a CFO and a board, but also there are some strategic differences, very unique differences that when you think about those two types of leadership roles, if you will, board of directors in place of a publicly traded company to look out for the best interests of shareholders, CFO in place to make sure that the finances are in order of that publicly traded company, and has their responsibility to the SEC and to other stakeholders in the organization. From a board perspective, you know, you think about culture, you think about succession planning, you think about market conditions, you think about company objectives, you think about you know, finance and reporting and all those things. And my role of being independent and objective in a compliance-related role helped me with that conversation with the prospective client, because they were looking to figure out, okay, I want to take my company to the next level. I want to take it from $5 million top line to $10 million top line. Well, how do I do that? Well, first of all, you got to take a step back and look at your people, process, and systems. And so when you look at your people, do you have the right people in place to get you from 5 to 10 million? Right. You know, do you have the right two men in place? What culture do you have? You know, how are you as a leader? Check yourself, look in the mirror as a leader, and say to yourself, do I have everything I need to lead, right? And then I need to get the right people in place. I need to have the right culture. I need to have the right vision. It needs to be clear for people to understand what their role is in what they do. From a CFO perspective, being a two-man in that arena, helping that CFO understand that you have to monitor, you know, the systems you have in place, both IT perspective and process perspective, right? Because you may have some inferior processes. You may have things that are broken that are being patched by workarounds and patched by manual processes and patched by things that people don't quite understand. And they just continue to do what they do because that's just how we've always done it, right? So when you think about the infrastructure in place to make sure you have accurate and great financial reporting in place as a finance leader, this particular prospective client struggled with that as well because they weren't getting the right information they needed to make proper decisions. So,
that's important, man.
Oh, it's important. That's critical.
That's if I had my pastor on this call right now, just even in the church world, the ministry world, for the leader to know where his organization is, to be able to have the right information, the right numbers. You can't make decisions without the right reporting. So, man, I feel you on that one. I just had to stop you on that
one. Yeah, no, it's serious, man. And so I say all that to say that, you're hitting this at a great time because the world is changing. It's, becoming smaller with technology. Things are instant nowadays. And so there are new exposures, new risk factors when you talk about image and reputation and social media and how those things could jeopardize company objectives, organization objectives. But you got to have the right people in place. You got to have the right processes in place and the right systems in place. and the right people leading and running those. And so I can't begin to tell you how I can see the tentacles come from this concept of what you have, because it delves into nonprofits, it delves into faith, it delves into business, it delves into communities, and it's yet another tool we could utilize when we're giving back. Because you can use this concept and this idea to say, listen to this, tell me what you think about this, and you can challenge these youth to understand at the lowest levels, because these kids are smart, and this concept of two-man and leadership is something that they can exert in school, right? And so social and emotional learning is something that's evolving in our school system. And this hits at the core of that concept of exposing kids to more than just algebra and history, right? They need to be exposed. And this movement of social and emotional learning is something that I think is huge, and we play a huge part of that. And two-man can delve low and it can go high in that vertical. So, man, I love what you're doing, man. Love what you're doing.
I appreciate it. Yeah, Mark, it's volunteer leadership, man. It's so important. So, man, Mark, man, what I want to do later, once the book come out, I think it would be cool to have all of our board members on at one time, and we have a conversation about it, Take Two, because really TDI is a two-man. It's a two-man type organization that's helping somebody else's dream come to pass. And that's really the concept of a two-man. You have to be able to humble yourself. You got to understand that, okay, man, I want to win a championship. It's not so much about me being the man by myself. I don't have to go out here and we got TDI rolling. I don't have to go out here and start another TDI or something different because I want to be the president of it. It doesn't matter. It don't matter what role I play. We've all played different roles in TDI on this board. Whether it's Jeremy as the president, if you were the president at one time, if Dante was the president, it really doesn't matter. And my point is, man, a title don't define you. I'm a leader. I'm a natural born leader. I don't care where I sit on the org chart. I'm a lead right from that spot. So if I never get the credit, if I never get my name in lights, that's not my motivation. My motivation, I want to win. I want the vision to come to pass. I want to see these young people be great. And that's why we started TDI. I want these young people to think bigger than I want to get a job. So what? You really don't want a job. You want the means to do what you want to do. That's what you want. So why not figure what your dream is and let's go for that. Let's figure out how to do that, because you'll be fulfilled in that. And whether you the CEO of the company, whether you the whatever, the mid-level manager, if you okay with that, it doesn't matter. Be the mid-level manager and then go volunteer and work and volunteer through TDI and fulfill yourself. Like I just want people to get it, man. It does not matter. We looking at social media, we looking at culture, and it's me. That's the wrong perception. That don't work in the faith-based arena. It doesn't work in companies. If everybody say, if you hire people for your CPA firm and you got a staff, and everybody say, I want my name to be on the door, what type of company will you have? If everybody want to be you because you started the company, your vice president, your office manager, your secretary mad because they name not on the billboard. It don't work like that. And so I hope, my passion comes out through this so people can understand, man, it don't make me less. If I work for your company, that don't mean you better than me. That don't mean you greater than me or I'm less than. No, I'm bringing value to you and we winning.
Yep.
And I think that's the point, man. So as I spin, I end all these conversations with talking about great two-man. It's the NBA playoffs right now going on. So we're going to start with basketball. That's how I met you 30-something years ago. Workman versus Hutch. city championship tournament. That's where it all began. So let's bring it back to basketball, man. Great two men in the history, past or present. Give me your top 5.
Woo!
Basketball players. Top 5. Past, present, two men. These are people, man, whether they did the dirty work, whether they could relieve their number one for a period of time and get in the game and still keep it going, whether they couldn't win without this person, but they ain't need the credit. They ain't need their name and lights. They wasn't doing the post interview. But if they wasn't there, that team wouldn't have won. So come on, man, give it to me. Give me some great two men. They don't have to be in order.
Right.
Give me 5. Give me 5.
All right. Now this is funny, man. You asked this question because first of all, I love the question. Great question. And I go back. So when I think about great two men that I've seen with my own eyes on television, I'm gonna say Dennis Johnson, number 1.
Dennis Freckles. Okay.
Freckles, and like you said, in no order, but Dennis Johnson. When I think about, there was a great steal he had to close out the NBA Finals one year.
Oh, don't hurt my heart now. Why you gotta start there, Mark? You gotta go there, Mark. No, go ahead.
But no, man. But a captain, a leader, and somebody that when I remember, those guys playing the Lakers and they played the Rockets and they played the Pistons. I always looked at Dennis Johnson as somebody that kept the floor in control, right, and helped Bird win those championships. I think about a guy like Robert Horry, big shot Robert Horry. I mean, oh my God, Houston Rockets, LA Lakers, San Antonio Spurs, a lot of those championships wouldn't have come without Robert hitting that 3 at the end, right? And so definitely think about Robert Horry. I think about Joe Dumars, in your neck of the woods. Joe Dumars was, and actually I'll give you 2 from that vein. Joe Dumars and Mo Cheeks were both great two men. Mo Cheeks to Dr. J, and Joe Dumars to Isaiah Thomas. Did all the dirty work. Joe Dumars, one of the best defenders out there, man. And you looked at him, you say, man, that guy like 6 foot tall. How is he doing this? They have 2 small guards. And but it worked. It worked. It was a great relationship.
Now let me jump in so you can be thinking about some more. So in the book, I talk about Joe Dumars, and I do it's a paragraph about it. Joe Dumars to me was the quintessential 2 in this sense. Isaiah was the star of the team. You knew Isaiah, that was his team. But Joe Dumars not only complimented Isaiah well, so whether it was defense, whether it was doing all the little stuff he couldn't do, but he also, which I think is important for a great 2, when Isaiah needed a break, Joe could move over to the point guard and hold the team down and don't lose the lead until Isaiah came back into the game. And I think that's an important quality. So, like I said, in my organization, I'm a 2 leader. But there's time when my senior leader is on vacation. There's times when he needs to go travel and do something else. He can feel confident that he can put the rock in my hands and the organization still go function and still go flourish until he gets back. And I think that's important with a Joe Dumars. Not just is he a great support, but if you put him in the leadership spot for short periods of time, he can hold it down and you don't have to worry about, are we going to lose the lead? Or are we going to lose the client? Are we going to lose the contract? Because that person is capable of leading in your absence too. So I just want to throw that out.
Yeah, that's a great point. And let me tell a quick story real quick, man. So one of the most valuable things I've heard in the basketball, in the association, if you will, Isaiah Thomas told a story about Dennis Rodman, who arguably could be a great two-man, right?